I am Brother Prodigy, and this is another installment dedicated to the archives. Today's date is August the 29th, 2014, according to the Gregorian calendar. And this installment is titled The Matrix is a Hologram Part 2. This is Part 2, y'all. Okay? So you know it's going to be even bigger and better and contain a lot more information. So buckle up. That's all I can say. Okay? So once again, if you don't know who I am, visit the website ancientgnosticwisdom.com. That's ancientgnosticwisdom.com. Okay? And it will also load your boat in relation to information of an esoteric and Gnostic nature. Okay? Now, this installment, as I've said, is part 2. Okay? And basically, these are my notes that I've taken from reading various books on holographic universes, holographic realities, etc., etc. And it's pretty much just an amalgamation of sorts I'm basically going to be just reading from my notes that I've gathered along the way from going through various texts. And if you don't have any paper or a smart gizmo to take notes on, you really should get one, because I'm going to be citing a lot of references and I'm going to be going through a lot of scholarship. Okay, so get your pen and paper handy, because I want you all to not just listen to what Brother Prodigy has to say, but actually take time and research what I'm saying for yourself. Because with the scholarship that I'm going to give you all, it will be beneficial to your spiritual evolution to really look it up and find new things and different things that maybe I've missed. So with that being said, really, let's get into it. Let's really get into it. Well, let me first start off by saying, okay, let me give you guys some current events, okay? Right now, you have the situation in Ferguson, Missouri, which is really, the people of Ferguson, Missouri, are really they've reached critical mass, and they're tired of the joblessness that's going on in their community, tired of not having jobs, and tired of being mistreated, tired of seeing men and women shot down dead in the streets, and they're tired of it. And the explosion that we currently see in 2014, speaking specifically to the month of August, is just a way of saying, that's it, we've had enough. And rightfully so. I mean, a lot of people talk about looting and they shouldn't loot businesses, etc., etc. They're only destroying their own community. But in all actuality, what do we as quote unquote African Americans own in our own communities to begin with? Pretty much nothing. So looting, everything that they're doing, they're not basically destroying their own communities. They're destroying the capitalistic mechanism that's exploiting their community. So there's a big difference. There really is a big difference. So that's going on. There was a woman in Pennsylvania that actually saw a UFO, and she was looking at this UFO for at least 20 minutes, y'all. And she called the police. The police came out, and the police even documented that, yeah, it is in fact a UFO. They called the, I can't remember who they called, but it was the local internet, it was the local airport, and they didn't have any record of any planes in that area at that time. And the police even validated her statement. Not that her statement even needed validation to begin with, but you know how society is. If a cop vouches for a person, then it's deemed credible. So we have proof that there are unidentified flying objects visiting this earth. So we know the time is near, y'all. We know the time is near, and we see hatred amongst the races at an all-time high. So we know that the time is near. Something is happening, spiritually, because on the physical plane, it's just the effect of something of a spiritual nature. So we know that time is getting short. So with that being said, let's really get into it, y'all. Okay. Now, men and women consider themselves to be made up of solid matter, right? The masses I'm speaking of. Actually, the physical body is the end product, so to speak, of subtle energy fields which shape the physical body as well as all physical matter. These fields are holograms, which are dynamic and change and are outside the reach of our normal senses. Now, this is what clairvoyants perceive as colorful and shaped halos or auras surrounding our physical bodies. Okay, now that was a direct quote from the book Stalking the Wind Pendulum, okay, by Itzhak Bentov, okay, and the author's name is spelled Itzahakbentov. And here's another thing. People love to talk about how black people name their children all these names or whatever. But look, this name, the names that other how can I say this? Other people groups give their children is way worse than we could ever come up with. Okay, I can't even begin to pronounce this author's name, but I'll spell it for you. Itzhakbentov, and the book is called Stalking the Wild Pendulum. Okay, now in the middle, I'm speaking of the eyes now. Okay, in the middle of the retina, where the optic nerve connects to the eye, we have a blind spot where there are no photoreceptors. Okay, follow me. So consequently, a large part of visual information entering our brain is edited and modified by our temporal lobes because it's passed on to our visual cortices, okay, or the visual cortex. All right. So even though our eyes may be visual organs, it's actually the brain which sees. So actually your eyes are a medium of sorts between this huge diffraction pattern. Okay, for example, you have this huge diffraction pattern. You have your eyes, okay, which are the medium, which transmit the vibrations to your brain, and the brain takes those and interprets them and formulates a picture that we call quote unquote reality. All right, so even though our eyes may be visual organs, it's actually the brain which sees and formulates and takes all these frequencies and puts them together. Okay, now some studies suggest that less than 50% of what we see is actually based on information entering our eyes. The remaining 50% and plus, okay, is pieced together of our own expectations of what the world should look like, and perhaps out of other sources such as reality fields. So there's a percentage of what our brains interpret by way of frequency vibrations as being there, but at the same time, there is also, the brain also pieces together what should look like it should be there, which should look like something that should be there. Okay, so just remember that. Okay, now in Carl H. Pribram's view, reality at large is really a frequency domain. Okay, and our brain is a kind of lens that converts these frequencies into the objective world of appearances. Okay, now this is in page 164 of Michael Talbot's book, The Holographic Universe. Okay? Now, he also believes that there may be all kinds of things out there in the frequency domain, a la the Matrix, which is this frequency domain, okay, that we are not seeing. Things our brains have learned to edit out regularly out of our virtual reality. Okay, so when mystics have transcendental experiences, what they're really doing is catching glimpses or tapping into the frequency domain of the Matrix. Now, I think here's a good time to define aura. What is an aura? An aura is a human energy field or a subtle energy field around the human body. Okay, so you have the human body, and then around the human body is a subtle field of energy, a halo-like temple of light that exists just beyond normal human perception. Okay, in China, since the 3rd millennium BC, it's been called Qi. Okay, the Qi energy, and is believed to be the energy that flows through the acupuncture meridian system. Okay, now in the Kabbalah, a Jewish mystical philosophy that arose in the 6th century BC, it calls this vital principle the nefesh, and that an egg-shaped bubble or iridescence surrounds every body, in which it does. Okay, now I want you all to think of this energy field as a dense fog. Okay, just picture this for a moment. Picture this energy field as a dense fog, and picture yourself within this dense fog. Okay, now then picture this dense fog as having an intelligence. Okay, now picture this dense fog as being able to affect and even change your chemical and physiological makeup. All right, now picture the world that this fog resides in as being your higher mind. The fog closest to your physical body would be the densest, and the further the fog is away from your physical body, the less dense the fog becomes. All right, now this is basically just an abstract way of comprehending your body in relation to your aura. Okay, whether we like it or not, the demiurge is lord over this physical Maya, and therefore dictates the composition and what the physical body is capable of through genetics and DNA. So therefore, the energy field is limited to the amount of constructing and regenerating it's able to do. But once one is freed from being under this lordship, you are then at liberty to act more freely. And as one no longer being in purgatory, all right? So consequently, once you are released from being under the lordship of this Maya, you are then at liberty to act more freely as one no longer being in purgatory, in which we are. See, the human energy field has a number of distinct layers. Okay, so all right, so you have this human energy field, all right, and within this energy field there are a number of distinct layers. These layers are actually said to be three-dimensional energy bodies that occupied the same space as the physical body, but are of increasingly larger size, so that they only look like layers or strata as they extend outward from the body. Now, many psychics assert that there are 7 main layers, okay, more subtle bodies, if you will, okay, with each progressively less dense than the one before it, and each increasingly more difficult to see, okay, psychically. All right, the first 4 are: you have outside of your physical vessel, you have the etheric body, the astral body or emotional body, you have the mental body, and the causal or intuitive body. All right. Now, it's generally believed that the etheric body, the body that's closest to the size of the physical body, it's a kind of energy blueprint and is involved in guiding and shaping the growth of the physical body. All right. Now, just look at the body and just picture the body within a cage, within a metal cage, or picture the body within scaffolding, okay? And that cage or that scaffolding is what supplies the energy that the body needs to regenerate cells, etc., etc., okay? Also, according to Indian yogi literature, we also have special energy centers in our body called chakras, all right? And for those of you that have been listening to me often, you know, I'm really preaching to the choir on this one, but these focal points of subtle energy are connected to the endocrine glands and major nerve centers in the physical body, but also extend into the energy field. And this is also just a side note. A lot of toothpastes, specifically Crest and Colgate, they contain chemicals within them to directly attack the endocrine glands, and by them doing so, it thus reduces consciousness. Okay, so if you are able to do so, it would be healthy to just switch to a more natural toothpaste. All right, and you can even do like my grandmother. She used to keep it straight gangster and just use baking soda and water, and she had all her original teeth up, up until when she died, which she died at 83. But she had all of her original teeth. So, just because something is newer doesn't necessarily mean that it's better. You can keep it real and just get a box of Arm& Hammer, baking soda, and a toothbrush and just go to work. All right. You don't have to get the fancy, Colgate Total Plus Extra Super Duper Kills whatever. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to do all that. You just stick to the basics. Don't be persuaded by way of capitalism and expensive advertising trying to lure you in to kill you. Okay? Now, the physical body. Okay? Now, when you look at chakras pretty much resemble spinning vortexes of energy when they're looked at head on. Okay, now yogi literature refers to them as chakras, which comes from the Sanskrit word for wheel. So essentially the word chakra just comes from the Sanskrit text of meaning a wheel. All right. The crown chakra, an important chakra that extends outward from the pineal gland, which is also referred to as esoterically as the 1,000-petaled lotus, is associated with spiritual awakening and is often described by clairvoyants as looking like a little cyclone, essentially whirling in the energy field on top of the head. And it ranges from a few inches to a foot or more in height. Now, when people are in a joyous state, this whirlwind of energy grows taller and brighter, and when you dance or move, it bobs and sways like a candle flame. You see, the human energy field is not always bluish-white as is commonly thought, but can encompass various colors. All right. Now, according to talented psychics, these colors and their muddiness or intensity and their location in the aura are all related to a person's mental state, emotional state, activity, health, and assorted other factors. Okay. Now, Google Barbara Brennan, all right? BARBRABRENNAN, okay? And really make sure that you research her with an open mind because there's a lot of disinformation being spread around. Now, she began her career as an atmospheric physicist who was working for NASA at the time at the Goddard Space Flight Center. And actually, retired from that to become a counselor. Now, she not only sees the chakras and their layers and other fine structures of the human energy field with exceptional clarity, but can accurately diagnose medical ailments based upon what she sees. All right. Now, she says that in the early stages cancer really looks grayish blue in the aura. Okay, the aura has a grayish blue tone to it, and as it progresses, it turns black. Then eventually, white spots appear in the black, and if the white spots sparkle and begin to look as if they're like erupting from a volcano, so to speak, it means that the cancer has metastasized. Okay, so now listen up, family. Drugs such as alcohol, marijuana, and cocaine are also detrimental to the brilliant, healthy colors of the aura, which create what Barbara Brennan calls etheric mucus. All right. And there was a specific case in which she was interacting with a client, and she asked the client, well, you know, you really need to curb your cocaine habit. And her client was like, well, what are you talking about? I don't do cocaine. So, but her being able to see his aura, she saw that not only did he do cocaine, but she could see what nostril he was using to actually snort the cocaine because of the etheric mucus that was built up around his specific nose, or nostril rather. Okay, so being able to see a person's aura, having that ability, you can determine a lot about someone. Okay, and potentially lead to healing of that same person. So it is real. It is a powerful ability. Okay, and also when you look at prescription drugs, they often cause dark areas to form over the liver. Okay, things like chemotherapy can actually clog the energy field also. Okay, the field of a rigid person, okay, is really coarse and grayish, with most of its energy concentrated on the outer edge of the aura. Okay, and illness can also be caused by tears, blockages, and imbalances in the aura. Now, the human energy field exists everywhere, okay, according to Barbara Brennan, and this is stated on page 167 of The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. You also have a person named Valerie Hunt, and she is a physical therapist and a professor of kinesiology at UCLA. And she says that the normal frequency range of the electrical activity in the brain is between 0 to 100 CPS. And CPS just basically means cycles per second. Okay, this is what energy is measured in, with most of the activity occurring around 0 to 30 CPS. All right, your muscle frequency goes up to around about 225 cycles per second, and the heart frequency goes up to around 250 cycles per second. But this is really where electrical activity really associated with biological function drops off. Now, Valerie Hunt also discovered that a person's talents have a direct correlation to the presence of specific frequencies in a person's energy field, i.e., basketball, football, music, writing, drawing, etc. Okay? So, a person's talents and abilities do have a direct correlation to the presence of specific frequencies in a person's energy field. Okay? But if you notice, she doesn't mention anything about intellect or how smart you are or your IQ score. All right? The main focus of a person's life is, if the main focus of a person's life is on the material world, or mammon, as the Bible speaks of, the frequencies of a person's energy field tend to be in the lower range and are not too far removed from the 250 CPS, or cycles per second, of the body's biological frequencies. Okay? In addition to these, people who are psychic or who have healing abilities also have frequencies of roughly 400 to 800 cycles per second in their field. People who can go into trance and apparently channel other information sources through them skip these psychic frequencies entirely and operate in a narrow band between 800 and 900 cycles per second. They don't have any psychic breath at all. Okay, and this is stated all by Valerie Hunt. They're really up there in their own field. It's narrow, it's pinpointed, and they literally are almost out of it. Okay, people who have frequencies above 900 cycles per second are what Valerie Hunt calls mystical personalities. All right, whereas psychics and trance mediums are often just conduits of information. Okay, mystics possess the wisdom to know what to do with the information, says Valerie Hunt. Okay, they are aware of the cosmic interrelatedness of all things and are in touch with every level of human experience. Okay, they're anchored in ordinary reality, which is the matrix, but often have both psychic and trance abilities. However, their frequencies also extend beyond the bands associated with these capabilities. Okay, now what does that equate to? That equates to being on the brink of transcendence. Now, Hunt also goes on to explain chaos. Now, let's really define chaos, okay, in her terms. Chaos is the study of chaotic phenomena, i.e., processes that are so haphazard they do not appear to be governed by any laws. All right, now, think about this, okay? Now, if that isn't talking about black people in America, I don't know what else it could be talking about. People from all over the world look at us and say, what the fuck is wrong with them? Okay? They say that we're animals, that we don't make any sense, we kill each other, we rob each other, we're crazy, we sell dope to each other. People just look at us in amazement and say, what the fuck are they thinking of? Okay? But watch this. Okay? Watch this. In a way, it's good because they're actually bearing witness to our chaos. All right? Now watch this. Now watch this, y'all. David Bohm, okay, who is considered to be one of the most significant theoretical physicists of the 21st century by white academia. Okay, he's considered to be one of the greatest theoretical physicists of the 20th century. He said that there is no such thing as disorder, okay? Only orders of indefinitely high degree, all right? When Valerie Hunt observed energy field data on the oscilloscope, she noticed that it changed constantly, okay? Sometimes it came in big clumps, sometimes it waned, okay? All right, now, here's the thing. Sometimes it became patchy, as if the energy field itself were in an unceasing state of fluctuation. Okay, this is the definition of chaos. All right, and when she says sometimes it waned, I mean, to wane means to decrease gradually in size, amount, intensity, or degree. Okay, to decline. All right, at first glance, these changes seemed random, but Hunt sensed intuitively that they possessed some order. And this is stated in Michael Talbot's book, The Holographic Universe, on page 177. Okay, we have the most dynamic chaos pattern you ever saw, says Hunt. Okay, this meant that although kaleidoscopic changes take place in the energy field, and appeared to be random, they were actually very highly ordered and rich patterns. Okay, the pattern is never a repeatable one, but it's so dynamic and complex, I call it a chaos holograph pattern, as Valerie Hunt states on page 178. Okay, and this information was most likely done on our people. So essentially it's like this, right? Essentially it's like this. Okay, hold on one second. David Bohm states that there is no such thing as disorder, just order of an increasing magnitude. Okay, so when you think about that, think about this. Okay, it's like a puzzle, right? Say you have a 5,000 piece puzzle in front of you. Okay, no box or anything, no picture in front of you or anything. You just have 5,000 pieces to a puzzle, right? So someone is coming up and looking at all those pieces might say, well, damn, well, this is crazy, this is chaotic. Not knowing that once one puts it together, that the whole or the entirety of the puzzle becomes manifest. Okay, so due to the complexity of the puzzle, because it contains 5,000, pieces, the full picture does not become clear unless all those pieces are put together. And that's exactly what it's like in reference to beings of chaos, us, who are us. When people look at us, they say, well, what is going on? I don't understand this. You know what I mean? But when you look at, if you're able to see the big picture, then you know that, okay, well, it all makes sense now. All right, because as David Bohm says, there's no such thing as disorder. Okay, what we perceive to be disorder is simply order, but of a higher magnitude. Okay, things that are simple, things that are easy to comprehend by the layman, those are less advanced. The more advanced the being, the more complicated or chaotic they seem to be. All right. So when you look at these, when you look at our people, when we went from being a Moorish empire to being in slavery for 400 years to having black businesses, being lawyers, doctors, pilots in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to falling from that to rising up again through the civil rights movement by way of Malcolm X, the Black Panthers, etc., to falling back down in the 80s and crack, to rising up again and creating rap and dance and falling again. Our situation is chaotic, and it's like it ebbs and flows. It's like high tide and low tide. So black people in America are the epitome of chaos. Okay, it's hard to map us. We can produce geniuses as well as being some of the most ignorant people that the world has ever seen. So this is the epitome of chaos, which is defined by Valerie Hunt as well as David Bohm as being a higher form of order that is yet to be comprehended. Okay, so this is deep, y'all, but I'm going to keep going. All right. Now, what are human energy fields made up of? Okay, what are human energy fields made up of? They're made up of the subtle energy field that exists beyond the atom, which is the gateway. Okay, that which exists beyond the atom, is the gateway to higher dimensional realms. Okay, they segue into a more subtle and a higher vibratory dimensional realm. And it has also been reported that 3D images can be seen in a person's aura. Okay, now what are 3D images that are seen in a person's aura? These are holograms. Okay, now talented psychics often report of seeing holograms in people's auras. Now, what did Morpheus, which also means the god of sleep, say in the movie The Matrix? He said, it's just a mental projection of your digital self. Okay? A hologram. Alright? But my question to you is, does that make it any less real? Does that make it any less real because it is a hologram? In the holographic universe, the book by Michael Talbot, it states that the physical body is just one more level of density in the human energy field and is itself a kind of hologram that has coalesced out of the interference patterns of the aura. So let me say that again. The physical body is basically just one more level of density, okay, in this stepping down process in the human energy field. So you have this human energy field, right? You have this energy field, all right? And the physical body is just a level within this density field, within this human energy field, which is the densest, okay? And it itself is a hologram that has really coalesced out of the interference patterns of the aura, okay? So let me break this down, okay? It's like this. You have this interference pattern, or it's also called a diffraction pattern, which is basically like a sea of energy, okay, constantly colliding with itself or bouncing off itself. A sea of electrical interaction. Yeah, I like that. It's a sea of electrical interaction. All right, I'm describing this diffraction pattern. It's a sea of electrical interaction. Now, within this sea of electrical interaction, the frequencies within similar bandwidths or densities coalesce together according to their likeness or similarities. All right, so you have this sea of electrical interaction, which is commonly called a diffraction pattern or an interference pattern, okay? And within this, you have the frequencies with similar bandwidths or densities coalesce together according to their likeness or similarity. So now an aura is formed that the Bindu seed, the Nefesh, the soul, the black dot, etc. can essentially cocoon itself within. All right? That's what happens. Now, how does the soul cocoon itself within various auras and frequencies? How does the soul do that? As the Nefesh descends into lower densities by way of a step-down process, it causes the density below it to stick to it. Okay? This is the core of electromagnetism. Okay? Electricity, you have electricity and magnetism. So, as the Nefesh, the soul, the black dot, the Nefesh descends into lower densities, as being a higher density, by way of a step-down process, it causes the density below it to really stick to it and gravitate to it, okay? This is your electromagnetism. Now, on page 189, it says in the book, The Holographic Universe, it says that the universe itself started as a subtle energy field and gradually became dense and material through a ratchet effect. Now, what is a ratchet effect? A ratchet effect is the ability of human processes to be reversed once a specific thing has happened. Okay? The demiurge created the universe as a pattern or idea. This pattern functioned as a template, influencing and molding increasingly less subtle levels of the cosmic energy field. Okay? The ratchet effect. On down the line via a series of holograms until it eventually coalesced into a hologram of a physical universe. Now, this is a key point, okay? This is a key point. Many psychics have said that a person's subtle energy field is affected by the viewer. So, your subtle energy field is affected by a viewer or an observer. Okay? Meaning, People who believe in multiple energy fields tend to be able to differentiate between differing energy fields. Okay. Now, study quantum mechanics and Thomas Campbell, who wrote the book My Big Toe. Okay, and TOE is actually an acronym which stands for Theory of Everything. My Big Toe, My Big Theory of Everything. Okay, by Thomas Campbell. It's a really good book too, by the way. Now, you have from the etheric, astral, etc. Conscious observers and recorders may be causing a division to occur within the aura. Okay, so you have your aura, okay, which is simply a subtle energy field. And let's just say you come into contact, let's just say your physical body comes into contact with someone else's subtle energy field. All right? Okay, let me say this. Let's just say your physical body comes into contact or communication with another physical person. Okay? Now, your subtle energy field and their subtle energy field is also interacting with each other, but on a higher realm. Okay? And your subtle energy field and their subtle energy field are actually engaging in a dialogue, but not just on a physical sound element to this dialogue. Okay? They're engaging in pictorials, three-dimensional images, etc., etc. All right, this is how you can sense someone's energy when you're really close to them. Is because your auras are interacting with each other. Okay. Now, your aura or your subtle energy field is conscious. Okay, and it's like a dog reacting a certain way when someone starts playing with the dog. However, this is done on the subconscious level. All right, meaning your personality or your attributes aren't just limited to the physical realm, but they translate from each and every dimension to the next. And as you interact with more subtle forms of matter, your ability of expression increases. Okay? It's just that right now you're in an animalistic body. Okay, so when encountered, you can respond with pictures, three-dimensional images, colors, sound. So see, when you transcend this physical bondage, you will be able to respond to others with pictures, three-dimensional images, colors, sounds, scenes, textures, you name it, because like I said before, your ability of expression increases exponentially once you rid yourself of this physical body. All right, because you're dealing in frequency. Okay. See, it's the brain that converts sensory input into a language of frequencies. Thus, we have at the very least two realities. At the very least, we have two. One in which our bodies appear to be concrete and possess a precise location in space and time, and another in which our very being appears to exist primarily as a shimmering cloud of energy whose ultimate location in space is somewhat ambiguous. All right? So there's two realities, all right? One is the reality of the matrix, in which your body possesses a precise location in space and time, but another reality, a greater reality, in which you exist as a shimmering cloud of energy, conscious energy, whose ultimate location in space and time is somewhat ambiguous, meaning nobody can come up to you and say, okay, yeah, it's 12 o'clock. It's September 26th. You know what I mean? Nobody can say that because, there is no aspect of time in that manner. And this is also said on page 190 and 191. Okay? Now, this would be your aura. Your aura would be that which is, nobody can really place a time or a date or an age, of. Okay? Your aura, you cannot place a date or an age of in relation to your aura. See, we've been taught that Our mind is a product of our brain, right? But there's a difference, okay? Don't let the sloppiness of the peasant's English confuse you, okay? There is a difference between the brain and the mind, okay? But if the brain and the body are just holograms, the densest part of an increasingly subtle continuum of energy fields, okay? What does this say about the mind, all right? Okay? If the brain and the body are just holograms, the densest part of an increasingly subtle continuum of energy fields, what does this say about the mind? Now, scientists have found that the human energy field responds to stimuli even before the brain does, okay? Scientists have found that the human energy field responds to stimuli even before the brain does. So that tells you right then and there that that lets you know the rank and file right there. That it is the energy field that is more sensitive and that responds quicker to stimuli, in which the brain, the energy field is what gives the brain the power and the ability to start interpreting your so-called reality in general. Okay, so it would only make sense that the energy field will respond to stimuli quicker than your brain does, because your brain needs your energy field to even function. Without your energy field, the brain would go into a steady process of decomposition. All right, and this is on page 192 of the Holographic Universe. Okay, now this leads to really an interesting conclusion. Okay, the mind is not in the brain. Now let me say this again and listen carefully. The mind is not in the brain, as is commonly thought, but the mind is in the energy field that permeates both the brain and the physical body, which influences the body at a later point in space and time. Okay, so your mind, which is the true interpreter, is not in your brain. Your mind is in the subtle energy field that surrounds your physical body. It's just that your subtle energy field, okay, it's like this. Your subtle energy field feeds energy to the body, which allows the body to interpret and experience a limited band of reality, a limited frequency range. Okay, that's why we can only see certain bands of colors. Okay, that's why we can only interpret reality through 5 senses. All right, it's the subtle energy field that energizes the body to even interpret the matrix. Without the subtle energy field, the body would just exist in a void of nothingness. Okay, now that right there is evidence that tells you that this is a matrix. All right, it is the energy field that is your true intelligence down here. Your brain is just a limited tool which is very close to being obsolete, which basically interprets only a minuscule amount of frequency waves and constructs the matrix around you. So it is your brain that interprets a small amount of frequency waves and constructs from that the matrix that you see around you. And like I said before, 50% and more is really made up of the brain because of blind spots. So this is what we're really talking about. Welcome to the desert of the real world. Now you have a man by the name of Dr. Ian Stevenson, okay, who is a professor of psychiatry at the University of Virginia Medical School. Okay, now he's admitted that in his case studies involving hypnotism, he admitted that material conditions can vary from one life to the next. Now we're getting into this, into the topic of reincarnation. Now he admitted that in his case studies involving hypnotism, material conditions can vary from one life to the next. Okay, so you can be, wealthy in one lifetime, but poor in the next lifetime. That can vary. Okay, that aspect can vary from one life to the next. But a person's moral conduct their interests, their aptitudes, and attitudes remain the same. So while, during the cycles of reincarnation, when you're going through those cycles, finding yourself, finding knowledge of self, and once you fail, then you are thrusted back into this matrix based upon your ignorance and acceptance of the Maya that the demiurge is giving you. Okay, but your moral conduct, your interests, your aptitudes and attitudes remain the same. So when we look at black people in America, or when you look at the people metaphorically known as Israel, ISIS, the people of ISIS, Ra and El, the Moors, the ancient Egyptians, the Atlanteans, the Lemurians, etc., etc., there really isn't a change. It's just a constant progression of alchemy. All right, the meta, a process of metamorphosis. Okay, changing from a caterpillar into a butterfly. But with each process, there's a new dynamic that's added. Okay. Now, remember that you are angles of light. Okay, remember that and I'm speaking to the elect here. I'm not speaking to the masses, because there's going to be a lot of people that are listening to this that aren't numbered among the elect. So I'm not speaking to them. Okay, I'm speaking to the ones who know who they are, the elect. Remember, you are angles of light which proceeded from the triple black darkness, which is the true light. Out of the darkness proceeds the light. And the reason why you cannot see the true light is because, like the song says, you are blinded by the light because of your brain. Okay? You are blinded by the light because of your brain. Okay? Alright? Black is not inferior. Okay? Black is superior, because out of the triple black darkness comes light. Okay? The light that we see now is dying. Okay, it's on its last breath. All right, when you look at blackness, the triple black darkness of space exists potential, black holes, dark matter, dark energy. These are some of the most powerful forces in existence. So how can black be inferior? Okay? How can black absorb all other frequencies and still remain and still retain? Okay? This is what we're talking about here. So the whole let me address the whole concept of white supremacy and say it's all bullshit. White supremacy is bullshit, because just the simple fact of being white evidences that it is not original. Straight up. Okay? So all that white superiority bullshit has to go out the window. Okay? And I say it with such emotion because I'm tired of our people getting lied to. I'm tired of our people being treated like we're nothing, and that we're the ones that are ignorant, and that we're the ones that, I mean, it's mind-boggling. It really is mind-boggling at the end of the day. You know what I mean? So let me keep going further, because before I really go on a tangent, okay? But let me just say this, black people, that we really do contain something special. We really do contain something special, and I make these installments for my people. Okay, I make these installments for my people, and I'm not selling out. You know what I mean? I live on the streets. I'm homeless with no money. I barely make any money to even upload these installments and maintain a website. But I'm not selling out. I'm not selling out my people. I'm not selling out this information. I'm not charging for this information. Because you have all these people like David Icke and all these different people that put up, fill stadiums and promote, so-called Gnosticism and Gnostic information. But you know what? I'm not selling out. I'm not a government agent. I'm not selling out. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me that much. So what? I sleep in the streets. I don't care. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I know that this information is more vital, and I can give a fuck about another person's quest and lust for materialism that decide in their mind that sacred information is worth putting a price on. It really disgusts me at the end of the day that people are so willing to sell themselves out and the secret information for $1 that doesn't mean shit. You know what I mean? Take $1 bill out of your pocket, walk into any store in the United States of America and see what you can buy with it. People are putting their very souls up for sale. So it's just sad. It's just sickening at the end of the day. And the European is spearheading the whole fucking thing. So I don't care. I don't really care. I just got to keep it real. So, if you don't like it, I'm unsubscribe. Do whatever you got to do. I don't really give a damn, because this information is still going out. It's still promoted. I'm still talking about it. And I'm still educating my people in illumination and growing in consciousness. So what will happen is destiny. Everything else is irrelevant. So let's keep going. Also important is that Dr. Ian Stevenson found no compelling evidence of, listen up, my people. What's also important is that Dr. Ian Stevenson found no compelling evidence of retribution in relation to karma. All right, page 218. All right. The only God that can and will punish you is yourself. Okay, remember this. The only God that can and will punish you is yourself. Your higher mind, okay, by way of your own subconscious. Okay? Now, this is why religion is so dangerous. Okay, the reason why religion is so dangerous is because it will drill that shit into your mind and have you fearful and paranoid of some hell or lake of fire being, drilled into your subconscious mind, thus making it reality for you. Okay, listen up. So, by the mere fact of you going to church, if you go to church and believing this shit, you are creating your own heaven and your own hell. But guess what? The Bible says that you're never good enough. Okay, and that's the whole purpose of believing in Jesus, isn't it? Knowing that you're never going to be good enough. So therefore you're obligated to believe in Jesus. Okay? What they are doing is they're searing your subconscious mind with fear of a lake of fire, thus dethroning you from potentially ascending to your godhood. Okay? Now, what does the Bible say? Because, at the same token, you're like, okay, well, why do you talk about the Bible, but then, in the same token, you quote the Bible? You know what I mean? The Bible, you have to rightly, and it says in the Bible, you have to rightly divide the word of truth. Okay? Now, if you rightly divide it, you will know that, you will know what is truth and what is just utter bullshit. Okay? Because, because of Rome, the Empire of Rome, they did cleverly sneak stuff in, like Romans 13. Just go ahead, just blatantly obey your authorities and do whatever they say to do because they are appointed by God. That's all bullshit. Romans 13 is all bullshit. You know what I'm saying? They threw that shit in there. You know what I mean? But the true esoteric meaning behind the relevant scriptures are powerful. Okay, so that's why I do quote the Bible, but at the same time I talk shit about the Bible because because for that very reason. Okay, so basically, the Bible says perfect love casts out all fear. Now, what does a true God have to be fearful of if he or she is operating out of his or her sovereign capacity, which equates to, down here, operating from your heart chakra? Because your heart chakra should be used as your foundation, and then you should build from that. Okay, so your heart chakra, for one that is numbered among the elect, is your foundation. Okay, you cannot even begin to comprehend this information unless your heart chakra was activated in the first place. So that is the beginning, the foundation. You know what I mean? And then from that foundation, you build upon that. Okay, you guys follow me? Now, when I talk about being fearful, and when I bring up all these emotions, I'm not talking about specifically emotion, okay? Which is basically energy in motion, okay? I'm not talking about the world standard of emotionalism, because if you live according to the world's standards of emotionalism, that will lead to a susceptibility for you to be used in your relationships with people, period. Okay. All right. So me by saying, your heart chakra must be your foundation. I'm not saying to just be, nice to everybody. Okay. Because that's just emotionalism of the matrix. That's just the emotionalism of the matrix. Okay. I'm not saying that, because that, if you do that, that will make you susceptible to being used in your relationships with people in general, period. All right. And like I said in my previous installment, your ops will, and they can and will take advantage of that. All right. See, we create our own reality by way of our inner self. Okay, the quiet self, which is the subconscious, which is the God within you. All right. Reality draws us into those situations from which we can learn. We experience it as strange things happening to us, and we meet the people in our lives that we need to learn from. So we meet the people in our lives that we need to learn from. And so we create these circumstances at a very deep metaphysical and subconscious level. Okay. It's essentially synchronicity between us and our higher mind. All right. Now, Stevenson's theory is that the human energy field is a holographic template that guides the form and structure of the physical body. So, I'm also in agreement with this. Okay. All right. Because like the Bible says in Ecclesiastes, there's nothing new under the sun. All right. And even going outside the Bible, there's also a quote that says, there's nothing new under the sun except that which has been forgotten. So me quoting these sources, I'm just, bringing back ancient information that we have lost, okay, by way of cycles of reincarnation, the brain, and ignorance, okay? So, his theory is that, which I do agree with, is that the human energy field is a holographic template that guides the form and structure of the physical body. Okay, it's a kind of three-dimensional blueprint around which the physical body is formed. Okay, so you have this aura, you have this energy field, okay, which is a hologram, which actually gives energy and forms and promotes the growth of cells, etc., in various structures of the human body. All right, so it's kind of a three-dimensional blueprint around which the physical body is formed. Now, when you look at the Batak people of Indonesia, that's B-A-T-A-K, the Batak people of Indonesia, they believe that everything that a person experiences is determined by his or her soul, or the Tondi, T-O-N-D-I, which reincarnates from one body to the next and is a medium capable of reproducing not only the behavior but the physical attributes of the person's former self. All right, so they believe that the soul, which is the one which reincarnates from body to body, is that which is capable of reproducing not only the behavior but the physical attributes of the person's former self. Okay, Ian Stevenson also describes similar things as people reincarnating, from one lifetime to the next, but maintaining similar appearances from one lifetime to the next. So if you were a woman, reincarnating, you would look similar to, what you looked like in your previous incarnation. Okay. Now, the Ojibwe Indians, that's Ojibway, the Ojibwe Indians also believe the person's life is scripted by an invisible spirit or soul and is laid out in a manner that promotes growth and development amongst all the tribulation. If a person dies, quote unquote, without completing, and basically death is the shedding of an element, a physical element, of a specific density. Okay? The decomposition of one aspect of a multitude of dimensional realms that your soul, that your energy field really energizes. Okay? So decomposition and death is the effect of your spiritual being shedding, its skin, if you will. Okay? Now, it's said that if a person dies without completing all the lessons they need to learn, their spirit body returns and is reborn in another physical body. Okay? Because knowledge is what is needed to transcend. Okay? That's why gnosis is so important. Okay? Now, the kahunas, your modern day Hawaiian kahunas, they call this invisible aspect the Umakua. All right, the Umakua, or higher self. And it's theorized by Witten's metaconsciousness that it is the unconscious part of our being that sees parts of the future that are crystallized or set. It is also the part of our being that creates our destiny. The kahunas believe that thoughts are things and are composed of a subtle energetic substance they call the kinomia, or shadowy body stuff. That's what they say. The kinomia is basically shadowy body stuff. Okay, hence our hopes, fears, plans, worries, guilts, dreams, and imaginings do not vanish after leaving our mind, but are turned into thought forms. Where have we heard that before? And these two become some of the rough strands from which the higher self weaves our future. Okay, and in relation to thought forms, you can reference the scholarship by Annie Besant in her book titled Thought Forms. Most people, and her last name is Besant, Anniebesanc. All right, so I'm dropping the scholarship on y'all, so y'all don't just have to believe what I'm saying. Y'all can research it for yourself. All right, most people are not in charge of their own thoughts. Okay, says the kahunas, and constantly bombard their high self with uncontrolled and contradictory mixture of plans, wishes, and fears. Now, how many of us do that now? How many of us constantly bombard our higher mind or our higher self with thoughts of what to do, plans, wishes, fears, lusts, etc.? This confuses the higher self and is why most people's lives appear to be equally haphazard and uncontrolled in a bad way. Okay? Being tossed and fro and going with the trends. The kahunas believe this shadowy body stuff also forms a template upon which the physical body is molded. All right? And with that, like I said, without this energy field, the body will start to decompose. The tantric mystics of Tibet referred to this stuff of thoughts as Tsal, T-S-A-L, and held that every mental action produced waves of this mysterious energy. Okay, they believe that every mental action produced waves of this mysterious energy, thought forms. Okay, thought forms. As you can see, all of the scholarship pretty much agrees. They're pretty much in agreement. And I'm going from the Far East to the West, to the Middle East, etc. They believed that the entire universe is a product of the mind and is created and animated by the collective soul of all beings. Okay? The mystics of Tibet I'm speaking of. All right? The 12th century Sufis, now I'm moving into Africa. The 12th century Sufis or Moors also stressed the importance of visualization and altering and reshaping one's destiny, and called the subtle matter of thought alam amathal. All right? And like many clairvoyants, they believe that man possesses a subtle body controlled by chakra-like energy centers. Okay, they also held that reality is divided into a series of more subtle planes of being, not weaker, but just finer in grade. Okay, or Haderach, and that the plane of being directly adjacent to this one was a kind of template reality in which the alam amethol of one's thoughts formed into idea images, okay, which in turn eventually determine the course of one's life. Now, the Sufis, which basically means Sufi is basically defined as a woolly-haired one. Okay, and it is a reference to our people, the Moors, which practice a high form of Islam called Sufism. Okay, now what is ism? What is an ism? An ism is defined as in the Oxford Dictionary as a distinctive practice, system, or philosophy, typically a political ideology or an artistic movement. Okay, so Sufism was the practice or the belief system of the woolly-haired ones in northwestern Africa. All right, which were your modern-day so-called African Americans and blacks, etc. Okay, which by the mere fact of them being called black is robbing them of their birthright and heritage. Okay, the Sufis also added a twist of their own. They felt that the heart chakra, or kima, was the agent responsible for this process, and that control of the heart chakra was therefore a prerequisite for controlling one's destiny. So they believed, and they not only believed but taught that the control of the heart chakra was therefore a prerequisite for controlling one's destiny. So if you can control your heart chakra, you can control your destiny. Okay. Now, Edgar Cayce also spoke of thoughts as tangible things, which are a finer form of matter. Okay, and thought is the master builder. Okay, thought is the master builder. Thought is a master builder. Okay, now, and for those of you out there, I would also like to encourage you all to read a book titled As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Read that. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. See, every moment we are creating the images and patterns that give our future energy and shape. Alright? And Paramahansa Yogananda advised people to really visualize the future they desire for themselves and charge it with the quote-unquote energy of concentration. Okay, proper visualization by the exercise of concentration and willpower enables us to materialize thoughts, not only as dreams or visions in the mental realm, but also as experiences in this material realm. Okay, so proper visualization by the exercise of concentration, which takes effort and practice, and willpower, enables really us to materialize thoughts, not only as dreams or visions, okay, which are common in the mental realm, but also as experiences in this material realm. Okay, now let's go into near-death experiences. Okay, near-death experiences. Dr. Elizabeth W. Fenske, Fenske, who is a clinical psychologist in private practice in Philadelphia, announced that she too believes that near-death experiences are journeys into a holographic realm of higher frequencies. Near-death experiences, near-death experiences have said that they were, people that experienced these near-death experiences have said that they were either a disembodied cloud of energy or they were similar to a hologram like body sculpted by thought. Okay? Now, this brings to mind a quote by Rene Descartes. Okay, I think, therefore I am. Okay, I think that, therefore I am. Know thyself. Knowledge. Knowledge equals self, because knowledge creates self. It creates identity. All right. And even beyond this physical realm, that's when it really gets important. That's when knowledge really gets important. And knowledge of self and knowledge of, because it takes knowledge beyond this physical realm. It takes knowledge to create, not sexual intercourse, but knowledge to create. Okay. Now, according to Joel Whitton, who wrote the book Life Between Life, right, stated that at first the bodies that his subjects assumed, okay, during his studies, at first the bodies that his subjects assumed resembled the persons they had been in their past life. But as their experience in the between life state continued, they gradually became a kind of hologram-like composite of all of their past lives. So at first, they were, resembled the person within the life that they just transcended from. But as they continued, they became a kind of hologram that was like a composite of all of their past lives. So it was just like, once, mind started to really embrace itself, then all of these other dimensions that the soul or the nefesh experienced came back into remembrance. And so you have this massive amount of information, and experience. Okay. All right. So many people that have near-death experiences have described their bodies as, a cloud of colors, a mist, an energy pattern, or an energy field. This also suggests that we are all ultimately just frequency phenomena, patterns of some unknown vibratory energy enfolded in the greater matrix of a frequency domain. Furthermore, it has been said that each person has their own musical tone range alongside their own personal color range. All right. So not only has it been said that a person has their own color range, but it's said that they also have their own musical tone range. And many report of being able to see in all directions at once while in the disembodied state. And this is also what I've read in the book The Astral Body by A.E. Powell. In the book The Astral Body by A.E. Powell, it also talks about being able to, because of the higher dimensional realm, being able to see in all directions and things like that. Okay? Now, concerning judgment after death. Okay, and here's a key thing, right? Concerning judgment after death. The only judgment that ever takes place is self-judgment, and it arises solely out of the near-death experiencer's own feelings of guilt and repentance, in which is instilled within them by way of the matrix. The matrix is what instills in you feelings of guilt and repentance, or the need to repent. All right. The total lack of cosmic judgment and or any divine system of punishment and reward has been and continues to be one of the most controversial aspects of the near-death experience among religious groups. Okay? That's the thing, is that, when you're down here, you have the free will to worship a God, whatever God you want to. All right? But up there, then you must, if you do not realize that you are a God, then you're gonna reincarnate, because worshiping a God up there outside of yourself equals ignorance. So you're gonna end up in the realm of ignorance, which is Maya, the illusion, the matrix. All right. The matrix is a safe haven for those that are ignorant and want to live like Cypher in the matrix, who believe that ignorance is bliss. So their heaven is down here in perpetual cycles of reincarnation. But the ones who transcend and would rather live in sovereignty and embrace their interpersonal godhood know that transcendence is the only way out of this shit. If you want to take on full responsibility, but if you want to be a liable debtor, then this realm is the perfect realm for you. Okay? The Matrix will only give you what you want. All right? The Matrix is really good at giving you what you want. Okay? If you want to be a haphazard debtor and worship everybody but the God within you, then you will be back here again and again and again and again. But if you want to transcend and evolve as a sovereign entity or deity, then you will naturally transcend. And part of that transcendence is getting the gnosis. All right? Now, no thought is ever lost. All right? All right? Now, as I also mentioned, when speaking of, so-called divine judgment and the lake of fire and being cast down and blah, 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 I mentioned this more in my installment on suicide. So just reference my installment on suicide and I'll load your boat with information, okay? The dimension that one goes to when they die is said to be composed mainly of subtle matter, okay? And that one possesses a body that is referred to as a subtle body, okay? It is a dimension populated by many spiritual teachers or imams. This is also in the book The Astral Body by A.E. Powell. Or imams, and is sometimes called the country of the hidden imam. Now, the Sufis devoted a good deal of their writings to the clarification of this point. But this is alien to many Western thinkers. And even Michael Talbot admits that, a lot of this information is alien to Western thinkers because Western thinkers tend to rely on science more than anything else. Okay? And it's been said by notable yogis that, the Western culture is the only culture that still doesn't really grasp the concept of death and are afraid of it and are in fear of it, okay? And that's on page 260 in the book Michael Talbot's The Holographic Universe, paragraph 2. The Sufis concluded that imagination itself is a faculty of perception, all right? They also believe that the afterlife is the generative matrix or the womb that gives birth to the entire physical universe, which has been taken over, consequently, by the archons. All things in physical reality arise from a higher spiritual reality. All right? Page 161 in the Holographic Universe. Instead of having to search for spiritual reality outside of yourself, in the where and in the one, the where and the one is lying dormant within us the whole time. That is the big mystery, okay? Instead of trying to search outside of yourself, for, the where, heaven and hell, where it's at, whatever, or the one, the Messiah, the Christ, the God, whatever, it is lying dormant within us the whole time, within you the whole time. You just have to tap into that, all right? We just have to awaken it. And each of us contains the location of heaven or hell, the pits, okay? A 12th century Persian mystic named Sohrawardi, I don't even want to, I'm just going to spell it out, y'all, okay? Sohrawardi. And he said that the country of the hidden imam might better be called the Na Koja Abad, the land of nowhere, which refers to this land as an infinite sea of multicolored vibrations. Okay? Beings can manifest as a Christian saint or an Indian Hindu saint. Okay? But the purpose is really not to deceive, but to make themselves more accessible to a particular consciousness. Okay? And the Bible also says something similar. It says that in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 19, through verses 23, in the King James Version, it reads, "For though I be free from all men," Shaul speaking, "yet have I made myself servant unto all, that I might gain the more. And unto the Jews I became as a Jew, that I might gain the Jews. To them that are under the law, as under the law, that I might gain them that are under the law. To them that are without the law, as without the law, being not without law, to God, but under the law to Christ, that I might gain them that are without the law. To the weak I became weak, that I might gain the weak. As I am made all things to men, that I might by all means save some. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, many manifestations can appear to you, not to deceive you, but to lead you and guide you to where you need to be. You see what I'm saying? Whether, no matter what you're in, you know what I mean? Like our people during the 60s, during the 50s and 60s, we were blessed with the prophet Elijah Muhammad, but he came in, under the banner of Islam, because that's where we were at that specific time. That's what we needed at that time. You see what I'm saying? So, and that was the truth that we needed to hear at that time. So that's how he came. You know what I mean? Because it's all subjective. It's all about, getting you to raise and elevate to the next level where you are at. Taking you from where you're at now and helping you to grow spiritually and acclimate. That's what it's all about. No matter if you're in Christianity and etc. You know what I mean? People can be rescued from any religion on the face of this earth, on the face of this domain. Okay, but they are being rescued to bring that specific individual into a higher modality of consciousness, if you will. Okay, now Sri Aurobindo, who was a famous yogi, said that one of the most helpful things that one could do is to learn how to silence the mind. He says that in this higher realm, you have the ability to appear as either a form or a vibration. Okay, the wave particle duality discovered by many who modern science likes to take credit for. Okay, quantum mechanics. Research Sri Aurobindo's book titled On Yoga. According to Sri Aurobindo, all separateness is an illusion, and all things are ultimately interconnected and whole, and as one descended from the higher. So, basically, all things are ultimately interconnected, okay, through energy, all right, and the interaction between energy. Okay, there is not a place that exists that energy does not penetrate, okay? So, as one descended from the higher vibrational levels of reality to the lower ones, progressive fragmentation takes over, all right, and which is also influenced by entropy, the tending to, decay or to go towards disorder, all right? Now, when you look at Australian shamans, they often refer to the afterlife as survival and infinity. Okay, because the material universe is only a second generation reality, okay, a creation of veiled consciousness. All right, the Hindus say that it is transitory and unreal, or Maya. All right, the Upanishad states one should know that nature is illusion, or Maya, and that Brahman is the illusion maker. Okay, all right, the idea that the creation set into motion by the God of Genesis, the demiurge, as an illusion is reflected even in the Hebrew language itself. For in the Zohar, which is a 13th century Kabbalistic commentary on the Torah, and the most famous of the esoteric Judaic texts, notes that the verb bara, it means to create. Okay, it's all over Genesis, the creation story of Genesis. Just that word bara implies the idea of creating an illusion. All right. So, in conclusion, as the Aborigines say, we are just starting to learn how to survive in infinity. All right. We are just starting to learn how to survive in infinity. All right. So once again, I am Brother Prodigy, bringing it to you live and direct. Straight, no chaser. This is titled The Matrix is a Hologram Part 2. And today's date is August the 29th, 2014. And I'd like to say, also check out the website too. If you've made it through this installment without being offended or feeling hyper emotional, check out the website at ancientgnosticwisdom.com, because yes, this installment will divide the sheep from the goats. You best believe it, baby. So once again, I am Brother Prodigy. I am signing off. Peace. Hotep. Okay. Love, light, and liberation. Peace.